Hey there, I am so glad you're here. Come on in and enjoy Coffee Chat at the Cubby Hole. Okay, you might be thinking, coffee sounds fun, but girl, what is the Cubby Hole? The Cubby Hole was a divine little nudge on my heart, if you will, to build this space in our basement, in our home, where our friends and family could come and receive encouragement and love. And that's exactly what we've been doing. I've always known that the Cubby Hole would have a ripple effect out into the world, that it could bring encouragement and hope, not just to people that could visit here in person. That is exactly why I do Coffee Chats. I get to take some of the coolest people that are just like you and just like me, who have skill and talent, but most importantly, they have a vulnerable, relatable story that we can all glean some hope and encouragement from. So grab a coffee, cozy up, and enjoy Coffee Chats at the Cubby Hole. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to Coffee Chats at the Cubby Hole. It's such a joy to be here today. I wonder how all of you are doing. I think about you all the time. You know what? I love the notes that I get from you guys. So continue to send them because they warm my heart. I love to hear how my guests on Coffee Chat at the Cubby Hole have inspired you, maybe just pierce a little piece of your heart. And there's been transformations going on all over because of the beauty of the stories of my guests. And that brings me more joy than you can imagine. So as I ask how you're doing today, here's a question for you. Do you ever feel like you're in that maze of life? You're trying to go through and you just keep bumping into barriers. Or maybe just one thing after the other causes an interruption. That's our topic for today, is life interrupted. That is the beautiful, such an articulate, eloquent way that my guest Lauren has described her life. It's been a life interrupted. And we're going to talk about all of the stories and the meaning behind that in her life. And I know there are so many of you out there that are going to relate with her story and that concept of having a life interrupted. Sometimes we don't know why, but I do know that God does not waste a thing. There's always a message in it and a little piece of hope to hang on to in those interruptions. There's something we have to learn. There's a work that he's doing in us in those interruptions. So let me bring in my guest. I can't wait to bring her in and introduce her to you, but I just want to tell you a little bit about her. She is amazing. I met her at the Christian Comedy Association when there was a little remote version of the Cubby Hole going on in a coffee shop. We were doing that at the CCA conference. It was such a joy. I met her. Somebody encouraged her to go up and do her thing, and she brought in her keyboard and she was singing a parody. And I knew she was just so lovely the first minute I met her. She's a comedian, stand-up comedian. She is a speaker, and oh, what a stories she has to tell. And you know what? She's a mama and a wife. She's doing so many things in her world and doing them well. But you know what else she's doing? She is a ventriloquist. And we're going to talk about this. She just really started picking this up and realizing that she loved to do it. And you guys, she's really, really good. She started doing this during this pause we've had with this whole quarantine. So let me bring her in. She is joining us live from Texas. Lauren, good morning. How are you?
Marlo, thank you so much for having me, and good morning, everybody who's watching. This is your morning coffee. Let's do this.
That's right. I have my coffee, Cubby Hole cup that my kids got me. I am ready to go. I am ready to have conversation with you. I was just saying last night, and I was doing the promo, I was like, and I'm so glad I have a voice today because you and I talked for so long last night. It was so great. We were talking about the show for just a little while. But then we just started talking about our lives, and it was so wonderful. We're going to talk a little bit later about the a little fun we got to have yesterday. We're going to play a video that's going to show that. That was fun. We had a great day, you and I, yesterday. But I would just love to start with the heart of the matter. I mean, it's like when I talk with the guests, there's so much to life. that I can share and we can start with and where we could begin. But I'd love to begin with what I was just referring to. How do you describe what we were talking about a life interrupted? What has that meant to you during this quarantine?
Oh man, a life interrupted. Somebody give me an amen if you can relate to that phrase. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So bless it. My moms know everything. My mom is the one who actually coined that phrase. And she said, Lauren, she said, I feel like everything you're describing is all about a life interrupted. And learning to navigate a life interrupted. And I feel like I was telling Marlo last night, I think a lot of people can relate to this. Maybe in your life, while there's been incredible things, you feel like you've been consistently bumping up against things your entire life, friction, things, having to be like an overcomer in your life consistently. And I'm someone who can relate to that completely. And I feel like my life has been a life interrupted, and learning about how to cling to God and cling to joy and cling to hope when the enemy would have us rather just lay down and give in.
Mm-hmm.
And so so should I give a little background here?
Oh, please do. Please. I would, love that. As much as you want to share, we would love that.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'd love to just share a little bit of my background story, and then I would love to just encourage you, infuse you with some hope this morning, because I know so many are walking through difficult times. And sometimes Marlo said last night, she wisely said last night, people want to be told, they want to know that it's going to be okay. They want to know that it's going to be okay, that someone hears them, that someone sees them, and that it's going to be okay. And I was like, oh, that's good, Marlo. You better write that down. And so
we were both saying things, and we were both looking for a mic to drop. And yours was in the stand.
So I had one right here, so I'll use this today. Marlo-isms that I need a mic drop for.
Oh, girl, and you too. We were just dropping them last time. It was awesome.
It's so good. And so background on me. So when I'm diving right in. This is me like jumping into the deep end here, people. So
dive in, girl.
Diving in. So my life interrupted, which I know so many of you can relate to this. Maybe it started right off the bat. Maybe it started later. For me, it was like I was born and everything went, I had a difficult time right from the get-go. I was born with some developmental issues within my face. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I've had surgeries my entire life, structural surgeries. And so that has been a huge part of continually being interrupted by medical stuff. So surgery after surgery, ended up even having a benign tumor wrapped around my eardrum that had a couple of surgeries to remove that. And when I woke up, it had taken most of my hearing with it. And I currently have a lovely little fancy hearing device. And so surgeries have been a large part of it. And I tell you what's interesting, and I know some of you can relate to this, once you kind of get over the hump of something and you're like, okay, it's going to be smooth sailing from here on out. Yeah. I have now conquered and survived all of that insanity of years and years and years of having to stay the course and having to deal with the challenges that come with whatever it is that you're walking through. And so I got to the other side of that. I did one of my last surgeries, and then I kid you not, within 3 months, I got sick. My body started breaking down. I started breaking bones in my feet just by walking. I have bones that have been removed out of the back of my feet. Isn't that weird? And I've just started getting depleted. And then I spent over 5 years, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I couldn't keep food in. And I was bedridden for about a year, in the 5th year, and saw 85 doctors from New York to Texas. No one could tell me what was wrong with me. I know so many people can relate to the persistence and yet wanting to give up, and also being like, God, like, what is going on? And also, more importantly, what is the purpose of this?
What is the purpose?
What is the purpose of this long suffering? And I know a lot of people can relate to this too, because sometimes you ask yourself, and I selfishly and very fleshly ask myself, have I not suffered enough?
Right. Is this not enough? Yes, exactly. So there's no doubt people are that's a mic drop question right there. That's absolutely, like 1,000,000%. Yes. All go through that. And the stories are different, depending on the person. But that feeling, that question is so valid.
Yeah, and it is, and let me tell you, if you have that question and you have that question for God today, God can handle that question. It's okay to ask that question. And so I literally was just like, haven't I been through enough? And so in the 5th year, I'm going to show you, I'd seen all these doctors. My mom called me. She was like, I want you to call into this radio show. And I was like, no. And I was like, I'm done. I just like had really given it up to God. And I was like, I don't understand this. I'm devastated by the fact that I feel like I'd overcome all this medical stuff. And then here I am in another 5-year stint of medical stuff. And so, but mom always wins. And I ended up calling into this radio show. And this is what's amazing about this story. I had the night before, finally, after all these years, I gave it up to God. And I was like, not my will, but yours be done. And I bawled, being like, I don't get it. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. But whatever you have for my life, I am going to submit to this. And it was the next day that I called into this radio show. And I picked up the phone, talked to him, and I told him all of my symptoms within 20 seconds. He said, I'm about to change your life. And he said, you have celiac disease. And I was like, that dumb thing where you just can't eat gluten. And I was like, that is what is annihilating my body, is some bread. And it just like, and so I went on and saw a specialist. It was exactly what I had. It took me time. My organs had been totally jacked, but I healed from that. And what is amazing is that miracle was free. That miracle that God gave me that day of telling me what was wrong with me, it was free. And it came after, walking through all of that. And so for me, my life has been a lot about medical stuff, and it's been a common theme in my life. I've been consistently interrupted. And I don't know about you guys, but I have dreams and I have things I want to do in my life, and getting pulled over off the side of the road consistently and being interrupted is just, it annoys me. Okay.
Right.
Right.
That's right. I know.
It does, and it's hard because you're like, hey, I thought I was going down this path, but you've got to pull over on the side of the road. And so that for me, and maybe for you, the theme has been different. Maybe it hasn't been about medical stuff. Maybe it's been emotional. Maybe it's been relational. Maybe it's been self-esteem. I know that the journey for you may be different. For me, it's been heavily into medical stuff. And so for me, then I ended up getting well finally when I was maybe... Oh my goodness. I wasn't until I was 29 years old was the first time that I felt good in my life physically. Wow. And so then I went on, and my husband and I, bless his heart, he like hung in there through all of this. And we had 2 kids. And then come to find out, my first child had a very, very light form of what I was born with. So we walked through stuff with him. And then my second kiddo had some, OCD tendencies. And I just am like, so here you are again. I'm just like, it goes on and on, my friend.
There's a song for everything.
There is. And I just found and I know so many of you, I have so many stories, just like so many of you, consistent interruptions of that. And so anyway, after my kids have gotten older, I was like, okay, and things had settled in some ways. I was like, okay, Lord, okay, I'm sweating, I'm breathing. What are we doing now? And then God dropped into my spirit the Unknown Tour. And how ironic that it is called the Unknown Tour. And it's a women's event for churches with comedy, music, and speaking sessions, all about life's unknowns, about being interrupted, about dealing with fear when we're interrupted, walking through all of that. And so last year we did 7 events, and this 2020 I was set to do 25 events. And of course, the rug came out from under. And, here we are with Corona. And once again, things are interrupted. And I've had to really find myself coming back to the Lord and saying, and I shared with this Marlo last night, the question I continually keep asking God is, what I see as a closed door, I am asking you, Lord, what does this then make possible? And so that is where I am. And so as I walked through all these interruptions, and I know so many of you feel like that, you feel like maybe you're banging your head up against a wall, or, you're consistently walking through some of the same things, or maybe the same theme keeps coming up in your life. And often it will, until it's completed. right? Until God has done a full work in that common theme in your life. And so, but I want to encourage you and challenge anyone who's listening to this to ask yourself, instead of seeing the, all of the murk and the mud, saying, okay, then what does this make possible? Because therein lies the courage, therein lies the transformation, therein lies the exciting steps of what God has for you ahead. And there is the hope, because God is a God of possibilities, a God of hope. And so anyway, that's my soapbox for today, but that's my background. And I just want to love on people who feel like you're constantly being interrupted with difficult things. And it is not to sink you, but often it is to show you incredible possibilities that you otherwise would not look at.
A, I'm choking back tears. And B, pull that mic over and drop it, girl. Boom. I was just going to say, thank you, K. Dodd. I was going to say, I wrote it down. I said, could somebody write that in the comments? As the doors close, Lord, what does that make possible? Girl, you're mic dropping it here within the first few minutes of this. That's beautiful. And that's why we were on the phone for so long last night. It was just one beautiful story like that after the other. And that's what we were talking about is, yes, we have the trials, all the similar, not similar stories, but our own stories. But then it's how, what do we do now? And that is just that mindset alone. If we just can grasp onto that beautiful quote and just realize there's something in it. He doesn't waste anything.
No, I think you're exactly right. Like, he doesn't waste anything. And all of us are in these places that feel so dark. And, and I feel like God has purpose. There's purpose in what we're doing. And sometimes you've got to ask someone to speak life over you and say, I can't see it right now. I cannot see this. I cannot see it because it is dark. I cannot see it because it feels suffocating. I need you to speak life over me. I need you to show me that there is hope at the end of this. And that is where in the community comes, because in the seasons and the times where I felt hopeless, people have stood in the gap for me, and they have said, I will hold your arms up, I will hold your head up, I will hold your hands up as you pray out and cry out to God to deliver you from this. And so I want to be able to intercede and do that for other people, because so many people have selflessly, done that for me. And so I want to anybody listening to this, like, may Marlo and I just be an encouragement to you, that there is hope, that the waiting is not wasted, that there is purpose in what feels like a wasteland, but that the promised land for you is not going to be held back from you. Just because you can't see it around the corner does not mean it is not there, and does not mean that God is not going to deliver you straight to it.
Gosh. Pause, because I just have to pause in that and just take it in. It's so wise, and it's so helpful to so many. Jeff Leo is on here. We're going to talk about him in a minute. He was saying it's just like Job. What you're talking about with all the trials that we all go through. And I love Kay Dodd. I was just mentioning her, and Lauren.
I'm such a Kay Dodd fan.
We love our Kay Dodd. Oh my gosh. And being part of the Christian Comedy Association, it's so great. And I know that you're involved too. And it's so great to be in that organization, because we get to surround ourselves with people, but as women, we get to surround ourselves with other women. And Kay Dodd is one of those women that has spoken truth over my life. So many that I can mention. Rhonda Corey, whose birthday is today. Happy birthday, girl.
Happy birthday, Rhonda.
And, all of our friends, I could just name them all, but it's so nice to have, people in our lives, but as women with some of the specific things we go through, to be able to speak truth into our lives. I know there was a time in my life before I found Jesus, and maybe same for you, but maybe somebody watching is the same, as I used to just get on the phone and talk about the thing going wrong and just go around the mountain over and over again. And that, what the attitude that, took him through the desert isn't the one that got him into the promised land. It's like, you got to transfer over some time to the leaning on Jesus and listening to God in that. And that's why.
Say that again, Marlo. You said the attitude that took him to the desert isn't the attitude that took them to the promised land.
The grumbling, and then they didn't go into the promised land. They were. It took a while going around that mountain. You know what? Where's no? it's just that we,
you deserve it. You deserve it.
it's just true. I mean, it's the grumbling, you know, and for me, I mean, because my faith journey didn't start until into my 40s. And it's like the Israelites going around the mountain, just grumbling. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with those moments where we're grumbling. I'm sure you did some grumbling. You just said you were asking questions. I did some grumbling, but when we can lean on God and see what he had, like you just said, what's possible now, you know, and we sink our eyes. I always say it's like I just picture he just wants us, like we grab our child's face, like, look at me, like, look at me. He just wants us to say, just you and me. There's all this stuff around here, but just look at me, because it's so easy to find the grumbling. And again, it's nothing wrong with we want to grumble. We have to sometimes grumble to somebody, right? But I love everything that you're saying, Lauren. You are so incredible. You were talking about how at 29, you started to feel well physically, but then you were also dealing with, and this is one of the things you specialize in and you talk about, is fear. Now the emotions are setting in. Talk about that, because I know people can relate.
Yeah, I think I still struggle. Let's be honest. I struggle with fear, which is why that's something I really talk about on the tour. It's something I struggle with fear. I struggle with being open and transparent. Like, due to my history, it is more natural for me to, like, while I don't mind, I love performing and all of that stuff. But when it comes to Lauren, just me, with nothing else, without a puppet, without jazz hands, without a song, without a microphone, without any type of a stage, when it comes to just me, and I don't know who else can relate to this, but I want to say, sometimes I say the word private, but that's not true. I want to just hide.
Yeah.
And so, and it's a form of protecting myself. And I feel that, that's something I've really struggled with, is the fear. And I think that's important to look back when you walked through something, and you've kind of had that fight or flight, and you've had the adrenaline, and you've had to, overcome something in your life. And then you get to a place where then you have to walk through the emotions of it. So anybody out there, I'm a big fan of therapy. Listen, you just got to go. Okay. Because people have tools that you don't have. Okay. They got tools that you don't got. And you have to go get them, because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. And so,
I pause right there. That's a how. That's an important step, because we may take that for granted if we are willing to go and do that. But there are so many people that have been raised in a family, and it's not the family's fault. Maybe they were just, this was their belief. But sometimes we're given bad advice, and it's not their fault. But therapy, having a professional to talk to, is so important, because they do have skills that it's not common knowledge, and it can be healed. It doesn't have to mean you have to go on forever, but just going in and getting that help and that support is so key. And it does not have to mean that you are weak, because it doesn't mean that. So I had to stop.
No, in fact, I think it means you're rather courageous.
Yes.
Because I think it's just like, like Marlo, you're someone who is able to be you're very open, and you're fascinating to me, Marlo, because you have been through so much in your life. And I mean, like, you've been through 10 lifetimes of all sorts of things. Oh. And yet you're able to be very open with people and connect with people. And that's rather unique and rather special. And I would like to be more like you.
Oh my gosh. Well, we always see in other people what we want, but I see it in you. And that's why I just adore you so much. And you know what? It's like, oh yes, a lot of those sitting in the puddle moments, of just sitting in it. And, but it's like you said, it's what makes it possible. And it's like, I wouldn't change my life, because it makes me want to love people so much more in their happiness and in their mess. But thank you for saying that. But I think our hearts are the same. People that I see here in the comments, I know them all, and our hearts are the same, that we just want to take that mess, turn it into a message, and love on people. So thank you for that. But back to you, girl. Carry on.
Yes. So fear is something I've walked through a lot, and wanting to hide, and like, because it's really easy. And I'll speak to the other artists out there, it's very easy to personify yourself in other ways. It's really easy for me to, hide behind a puppet, hide behind comedy, hide behind, and there's nothing wrong with those vehicles. As an artist, those are pieces of yourself.
Mhm.
And so, so anyway, we talked about the closed doors. I think Jeff popped in here. He's been amazing in giving me wonderful tips on ventriloquism. And so in that season of like, what in the world are we going to do? I picked up ventriloquism. And so, which is insane, because I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. And listen, it's okay if your day to day is like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, you fail forward, is that's what they say.
Yeah. Just like keep going. I mean, something I talk about in my talks is about like moving your feet. It's like the Israelites didn't get to the promised land by staying there and sitting down. They got there by moving their feet. Even though there was a call in their life, even though there was a place they had to be, they still had to move their feet. And so I really believe that when it comes to walking out your faith and walking out what God has called you to do. And so, but as an artist, you've got all these different personas, and so and continuing to practice to be really authentic is something being just open and personable is something that I can really struggle with. And I've told Marlo all about that this week, and she was so sweet and supportive, and I was like, it just feels like you're just walking around naked, just telling people all your things. But here's the thing, it's like, and Marla was so sweet, and she was like, are you sure? Oh, wait, Kay said, our dysfunction may not be our fault, but getting healed is our responsibility. God, mic
dropping.
long.
What's that?
That's powerful. Okay. That's powerful. And yes, and healing in our responsibility as artists only makes our art more connected to other people. It allows us to be more open to other people. So when Marlo was like, are you sure you want to, and I'm like, even though it terrifies me to open up, and it's not something I naturally am inclined to do. Yes, I want to keep laying down walls and being more of who God wants me to be versus where I just want to hide. And so like, anyway, so props to you, Marlo, because I think that's something you do for people. And I think it's pretty powerful.
Oh, God, thank you. Thank you. Walking through fear is it's such a journey, but when you can, are we ever fully on the other side? I don't know, but I love the acronym that, fear is false evidence appearing real. And I'm always telling people, you could divide it out into a couple of buckets. Like when you're telling yourself is the truth. Like that's what we believe. What we believe is the truth.
Right.
And I always invite people to separate it out into two different buckets. Like what's the false truth and what's the real truth? And when we sift through that, we can find it. And sometimes it's just the limited beliefs, things we're telling ourselves, and we're just paralyzing ourselves. So you
100%
stepping out all the time.
You're sweet. So I tell you, the other day I was praying, and I literally asked the Lord, you guys, I said, why is everything so scary? And I kid you not, I heard the Holy Spirit drop into me, and he said, because you let it be.
Yes.
And I was like, all right.
That is okay. I have to share this quick story.
Please.
I share this sometimes in workshops and things that I do. There's a little boy talking to his grandma, and she's telling him a story about two wolves that live inside of us. And she said, one wolf, and only one survives. One wolf is the wolf that tells you can't, you're no good, you should be ashamed of yourself. What? You're going to counseling? That's awful. Like you're a weak, you're a failure. And the other wolf is doing all the opposite. You can imagine, you can do it. You are a child of God. Don't you dare give up. And the little boy said to his grandma, but which wolf survives? And she said, the one that you feed. I was like, okay. That is so, like, that's it. That's exactly what you just said. What are we feeding? There's wolves inside of us. They're in there. Who are we feeding? And so you are the shining example of just walking through it. You said last night one of your passions is finishing. You want to finish things. You are an incredible producer. Oh my gosh. I mean, let's talk about your tour a little bit more. I mean, how did that come to be? I remember when you started that. I remember seeing pictures of you in your driveway with all of your bags, and girl, you're going out and you're going to go warm up those hearts everywhere. I've loved seeing it from a front row seat. Tell everybody how you started in that. It came from a speck of dust.
It did. I was at, and this, listen, I want to let you know, guys, like if you're in a place where you're like, Lord, what is next? You better brace yourself, because it can come on a dime. Yeah. It can come when you least expect it. I am telling you, he is hearing you. Listen, I always joke with the Lord. I'm like, Lord, you can be a little slow on giving out the answers, but I'm here for it when it happens. So I was at actually Chick-fil-A, and my kids, I was trying to keep them from eating off the floor. And I was sitting there and I just was like, Lord, what is next? What is going on? And I was sitting there and I literally felt God drop into my spirit, the Unknown Tour. And I immediately, because I'm easily amused in my life, and I was like, why? Is that because I'm unknown? Like, ain't nobody know me. Like, what is that about? And I'm like, I felt God just continue to finish a work in me about that. It was a women's event, comedy, music, speakers. And something I really enjoy doing is bringing artists together. I thoroughly enjoy entertaining myself. And I also thoroughly enjoy being a part of giving artists a stage to do what God has called them to do. I have a big passion for artists. And so this event came together, and I ended up partnering with Compassion International, and off we went. And it was terrifying. And my brother encouraged me to make sure that I didn't just share the end result. He was like, let people be a part of the journey. Don't close off, let them see you with your bags. Let them see your fear. Let them see you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway, And so, we started off, and we did 7 events, and I learned a lot about producing. I learned a lot about working with churches, and I learned so much. And then it was, I think, and I know a lot of you may struggle with this as well, but one reason I had such a lot of grief this last year was because it was like booming when everything came out from under us, and the event had taken off, and we were going to be, I think, in 12 different states. And for me, for where I am in the tour and the event and getting something started, that was a huge deal for last year. And I could see that it was what it could grow into in the next 5 years. And that has come to a standstill. And I've really had to work at making sure, instead of getting my oxygen from my art, I'm getting my oxygen from the Lord. And some days I do better than others, But anyway, so that's where I am. And so I'm excited for when things open up again, but I have to have open hands, because like, we don't know when any of that's going to be. And it drives me crazy.
I love that. Just that visual of having open hands to receive it. Because we can be so close-fisted because of fear and our own. It can be terrifying. But you are doing it, and I know Kay Dodd. I think I should just had you as a co-host. That would have been awesome, because she's with us here. I love it because Kay gets that too. She was on the Aspire tour, and things were happening. It was like beautiful, and she's going to be back at doing that. You're going to be back at doing the Unknown Tour. Why did you end up calling it the Unknown Tour? I know God dropped those different thoughts into your spirit, but what was the actual reason for naming it the Unknown Tour?
Literally, I'll be honest with you, it literally for me was just obedience. And so for me, it was legit, just like God gave me the name, and I was like, then it is yours. And I wanted to walk in obedience. And so, but then as it started to unravel and unfold, I knew that it was all about life and about the unknown, because a life interrupted is something that we all deal with. The unknowns, like, how are we going to handle the unknowns? Because life is way more about the unknown than the known.
Yeah,
for sure. So everything has been about the unknown and about fighting fear and walking through things we don't know about. So we focus a lot on that on the tour, and a lot of laughter. I'm big on, you have to let people laugh and then connect with them. And so
I didn't know if he dropped in the meaning behind it as well as the name, but it's what I think of, what comes to my mind when I think of the Unknown Tour, because you're sharing your testimony. There's things that people are going there feeling better when they leave than when they got there. And it's like they learned the things that were unknown to them that they might have needed to walk out and feel just revived. You guys you did such a good job. And I'm so incredibly Proud of you. There's more. I just want to
and I want you to come do comedy for us at some point. Like that's one of my favorite things about getting to connect with all these people in the Christian. I love that. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing. Yes, Kim. Yes, I love that. You know, and that's the thing. It's like we all like every day, like we're still here and we're called to keep taking each step, you know, and just continuing to walk out. And I feel like, yes, moving our feet in faith is something that I think we are all completely called to do, you know.
Wow, it's so good already. I want to introduce another special lady that you have there with you, but I want to first have you talk about, I mean, now you're doing the tour, you're doing ventriloquism. Before all of that, you were in New York lighting it up, girl. Talk about that journey of being an actress and, you know.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, I did a bunch of theater work, which I did. I did tours. I went to school for musical theater and acting and worked show to show out of New York. I lived in Queens for many years and just, you know, did shows in New York and did tours. And I always played like the crazy characters, like always. And I played children a lot because like from far from stage, you can't see my wrinkles and because they have to have adults playing kids. And anyway, so it was just so fun.
I wanted you to focus on that because you were saying that last night because you starred as Junie B. Jones, and I found that fascinating that they do have adults play the child, some of the child characters. So just talk about that and Junie B. Jones.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that was you're so sweet. That was so long ago, but it was such a joy and a treat, and yeah, it was awesome. It was so fun. So yeah, it was just precious. I'm trying to think what I did. Like it was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything with theater was just so fun. It was just so fun. Honestly, Marlo, it feels like a lifetime ago. And I think that's why I'm stumbling over my words. You know
No, I get it. But you know what I love about that journey for you in theater is that you talk about fear, but it's what you also said a little while ago is it's like what I've shared about Beyonce. She had to have a persona in order to do her thing. We have to like almost hide behind something because it's us that we want to hide, our authentic self. But if we can put on a character, we feel like we can do it so much easier. And that must have been, I mean, yeah, there's maybe like the butterflies going on stage, but it's probably nothing compared to real life, you know, because you get to play a character.
Oh no, it's way easier to play a character any day, anytime, any moment. I don't even get nervous about that. I get nervous about speaking because you have to really put yourself out there to connect with people.
Yes.
And people are not interested. If you aren't going to be vulnerable on stage and open up, like people are like, you're not going to get to their hearts. And so being able to do that, like that's something I have to consistently work. That's probably speaking is one of the most terrifying things ever to me.
Yeah.
What about for you? Is that something like being vulnerable on stage? Is that easy for you or?
Now it is. Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a journey for me, just trying to figure out, well, you know, I've had to still do, even in, you know, the different projects that I'm working on, you have to decide as a speaker, which stories to tell. Some stories aren't ours to tell. Some stories aren't full circle, but I do not mind being vulnerable because it's like, you know, like where those were closed doors, you know, then what is possible for the audience. And that's what has helped me get over what used to be stage fright is hearing somebody say one time, pastor one time said to the congregation, if God's calling you to do something and you're terrified, get over yourself because it's not about you. It's about he called you, yes, but he called you to the people that he needs you to talk to and tell the stories that he gave you. So yeah, walking through fear is interesting, but no, I don't mind being vulnerable. I don't.
I love that though, but that's an example to people. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that's really powerful because that's not typical. Okay.
But you know what though? I had to walk through it. I would have been horrified if people knew certain things about me. You know, I just like even physical things, the accessories that I do or whatever, like I was like horrified if people knew that. Now I'm like, no, I need to share with women that I have thin hair, that I barely have any eyelashes, like or just and where we feel like those are physical things. There's also the things on the inside. So if we have the things on the outside, there's things on the inside that we are quote unquote lacking. but it's being able to have that transformation to go from feeling like we are in a state of lack to a state of abundance. And if we weren't blessed with it right off the bat, we can be transformed in either like physically with hair or in our hearts and our minds. So no, vulnerability is like, it's a key. It's essential. That's, didn't feel that way before, but I do now. Talking about, oh, go ahead.
Wait, I have to tell you, I think you hit on something really powerful. You said it was, I'm using my own words, but you like moving out of your own way, because I think that sometimes for anybody else who struggles with vulnerability or whatever, it's also, I believe, an ego thing, right? Yeah. Because we're worried about us. I'm worried about me. What are they, and so it's like, I consistently prayed over it this morning, like, Lord, move me out of the way. Because if given the chance, I'm going to get in my own way. Okay, I'm going to slide up in there and get my own way. And so I think it's just such an ego thing. And like, I think like you've gotten to a place where you're like, my message is more important than my ego. I think that's really awesome.
No, well, I think we're both exuding that. And it's so funny because this year, I'm going to go on to characters in a minute, but with regard to that, because that is so helpful, like that, what you're saying, because I know this is my word. Popped in my head is freedom. Like I want to be free from the stronghold so I can do more of what God wants me to do. But the one word that snuck in too that I needed to just sit and stew on for a minute, and I don't think I ever wanted to look at this word. It was the word pride. Like where is the pride in, I had to ask myself, when you do something, you must stop and say, where is your pride in this? Are you serving God or are you serving yourself? And that goes back to the vulnerability. God gave me extremely, I say it was God. Maybe it's all the bad home perms in the 80s, but my hair is so thin. And you and I were talking about it last night that I'm wanting to put a show together and just just reveal everything at the last minute to let people know that, we all have our literal hang-up, and, but I when I was scared to share my vulnerabilities, I realized I was sitting in a stew of pride. And, sometimes we have to wait and pray and receive, the courage to go in. But when we're ready, we got to tell that story and be vulnerable, because we all have something. We're just different versions of a different story. You know what I mean?
Isn't that the truth? And I love what you said, because what you've shared about your vulnerabilities, Marlo, like I have such respect for it. And I just think it's beautiful because it makes, you're like, here I am. And obviously you're a gorgeous lady, and sharing what you've had to walk through. It's like so powerful because it makes someone else be able to say, well, if she can share with me where she's had hangups, then maybe I can share. And it's that bridge. It's those bridges connecting where we, then walk together towards what God has for us, laying down that pride, laying down that ego, being open and being vulnerable. And so anyway, so I loved it. I'm here for it all day long. For all the things you share, front row, popcorn, everything.
Did you say popcorn? I am a popcorn fanatic. I texted my girlfriend Janice the other day and I said, did you know it's National Popcorn Day? And she's like, girl, you need to be the spokesperson. Like now I've all lost focus. I love popcorn. So anyway, I'll be with you in the front row. If you're eating popcorn in the front row, I'm probably just going to go sit with you.
I love me some popcorn.
Have some myself. Okay, so let's talk about characters. We have to introduce you guys to a beautiful, beautiful little lady. So I was mentioning, and I just want you to just touch on this story about ventriloquism, because girl, you are a ventriloquist, and it's so impressive because tell it when it started. And Jeff Leo is on here, and Jeff, as you said, has been giving you some coaching. And I've mentioned I'd love to see you connect with Dave Pendleton and Taylor Mason. They are incredible. I'm going to tag them in this. So tell us about your journey and how it got started in ventriloquism.
You're so sweet. Y'all, last night I was like, Marlo, I'm not a ventriloquist. I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, you claim it, you're a ventriloquist.
Plant the flag because you are. Like, I know, like I love, yeah, well, we'll talk about that later, but, and it's not easy. Lord knows yes, it's not easy, but you talk about your journey.
So one night I was like, and I've just been continuing to pray about like what I mentioned earlier about like, Lord, what does this make possible? Lord, what does this make possible? And I'm like, Lord, I know nothing goes to waste. What does this make possible? And so like, it is just a consistent cry of my heart. And one night, I think in early December, I was watching some videos and I saw some ventriloquists and I was like, these people are crazy. And I was like, I'm kind of crazy. And I was like, maybe could I try? I was like, okay, you know what? I told my husband, I was like, I'm gonna order a puppet. He was like, okay. He was like, he's just learned to be like, okay, like with all my stuff. And so he's like, okay, cool. Anyway, so I ordered it and I ordered a puppet and I just was like, I'm just gonna try it. I was very drawn to it. I think I'm drawn to character work. Like in the Unknown tour, we open up with character work. It opens up with two characters giving the audience advice, and it's terrible advice, which is why it's funny. And so I'm obviously with a background in theater. I have a passion for character. It just anything that makes people smile, it brings me a lot of joy. And so I just picked up this goofy puppet and I just started playing with this, and I was like, this is fun. And I think what Marlo said last night, Marlo talked about it was peaceful for me, and I think that's important. And there are times in our life when God calls us to do things that are uncomfortable, and in our discomfort we grow, and that's very important too. But for me, doing puppetry is something peaceful, and it's something, and I just I just have to throw my art into something. And so right now, as I'm opening up and throwing it into ventriloquism, and I really I don't know what I'm doing. But Jeff is on here. He's been so kind to give me wonderful professional tips, and I'm learning as I go. And I'm gonna I'm just gonna take it one step at a time and figure it out as I go. And I was telling Marlo last night, I'm like, Lord, so what does this mean? What does this mean in my life? What am I doing with this thing? Like, what are we doing?
That's why we were talking so long too. I'm going to show a clip, and then when we come back from the clip, I'd love for Lucy to join us for a minute. But that's why our conversation it was such a beautiful long conversation last night, because it's like, what is possible, and you are seeing the beginnings of what's going on with Lucy. But we were talking about like, man, you don't know, but it's like he's got it. And I personally could feel and see so much. It was like I could just see it, because we were talking about being so zoned in, focused on our own life. But when somebody else is pulled back and breathing over it, you can see a bigger picture. Sometimes we're just like, what's next, And there was something else you just mentioned. I'm going to think about it while the clip's playing. But no, I wanted to make sure. Thank you for mentioning that. What we said about feeling peace. Because if you do know, like I always talk about, if I've ever heard somebody mention the Holy Spirit as like, okay, they're scaring me, and I don't even want, like, what is that Holy Spirit? I thought it was like a cult thing. Like, what are you trying? I get it. It first, that happened to me, was sitting in my garage. I know what it's like now to experience the Holy Spirit, which is God's peace in us. It's in all of us. We just have to be able to see it and hear it. And when we were just talking last night, and I want to share this with everybody, because there's a lot of people looking for their purpose. We're doing the same things. Maybe life is interrupted. Now with the quarantine, what are we supposed to be doing? But when the Holy Spirit, as you said, drops it in, I call it a download. You call it dropping it in. When it's the Holy Spirit, it feels peaceful. Yeah. For any projects people are working on. And so that, I love that you mentioned that, because that is so cool. We have a clicking. Do you hear it clicking?
I do hear it. It's with us in the show.
Yeah. So we're talking about Holy Spirit. You don't know what's going to happen. Okay, I want to play this clip of you and Lucy, because it's so precious. And then we love to talk to her and see her on the other side. Hold on one second.
We have some distance, makes everything seem small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do, test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me.
I love it. Oh, that girl. You can meet her. She's right there.
Hey, there I am. Sorry.
Hey, there's a delay. Can we talk? Can we meet Lucy there in person?
Oh, absolutely. I know, she just, sleeping on the job.
I love it. I love that she was singing Let It Go, Lauren. I love that, because like when we're going through trials, I know we can't immediately say let it go. And if somebody ever says when you're going through something, just let it go, that's bad advice. And that's based on the advice that they were given. You can't always just let it go. You can lean in, lean into Jesus, but letting it go is sometimes a process. But I love the lyrics that she was singing as she said, I'm free. And that's what we're talking about, is just being free from fear and strongholds and the bumping into the wall. So where's Lucy?
Oh, yeah. So here is Lucy. Here she is. Hi. Hello. Hi, Daddy. Hello. She's very excited. She's good. She's had her coffee and everything. So we're doing good this morning. So
I love her laugh. She is so precious. And I love that she is she's a version of you,
Yes, I would. Yeah. So she's definitely probably my childlike self, which is a little bit crazy, and just for lack of a better word, maybe like pure-hearted, if that makes sense. Just open and not shielded, and more just uninhibited. So me in my purest form, uninhibited. And I think most of us, in our most authentic self, we are uninhibited, and I think as we walk through that, as we get older, working through not allowing ourselves to be inhibited. Yeah. I don't know. Now. So anyway, thank you. Okay, so good. So anyway, I have a lot of work to do. I'm still learning how to do this puppetry stuff. Oh wait, can I show y'all my new puppet that's coming out?
Let's see.
I'm gonna show you just the new puppet. So I'm learning.
By the way, I'm going to mention Jeff Leo is on here, and he's given Lauren some tips, and he loves to help people that are wanting to do puppeteering, ventriloquism. So you can see him over there in the comments. Reach out to him. Geoff. So reach out to him if something that you're wanting to see. Look at that. Who is this?
Oh, this is Rhonda, and so she's from Jersey, and she gives people unsolicited advice. So I haven't worked with her yet. I'm not good enough to do anything on the fly right here. Check back with me in 6 months on that. But okay, so you were saying, I missed something that you said, it cut out. What did you say?
Oh no, I was talking about Jeff. While you were getting Rhonda, I was talking about Jeff and how he loves to help people and with puppeteering and ventriloquism. So to reach out to him if that's something.
Yes, Jeff's in the comments. If you know somebody that needs to learn ventriloquism, reach out to him and he can give you all the pro tips for sure.
For sure. Well, you know what? Yesterday, man, oh man, you inspired me this whole week with Lucy, and you and I talked about this, that I've used puppets in my talks with children. And I don't know what that cooking is. I don't know, because everything is secure over here. But anyway, I've used puppets to go and talk with groups of kids and at some women's events. And it's so cool meeting you. Like, that's one of the many things we had in common. Now, look, I just want to say this. You and I talked about last night about different projects that we both have going on. And you were saying to me that your advice to me is we got to drop some things, to stay focused on like the three main things that God wants us to do. And I wanted to learn ventriloquism, but I just never felt like it's a calling. But I do use my puppet, and I use her in a certain way on video and things like that, because I love what you said. We have that in common. My puppet, Franny, I use her to talk about the inner version of me, because we all have that inner version, smaller, younger version of ourselves. So I don't in any way claim to be a ventriloquist. I just claim to be somebody that sees the opportunity to use a beautiful, sweet little puppet to talk about the inner versions of ourselves. So I want to play this video, and then I want to come back and have you continue talking about your journey with it. But yesterday we were so excited, you and I, because our girls got to have a play date. And so I'm going to show you a video of Franny and Lucy getting to meet each other. But it was so cool. It made me a little weepy, because when I went to look at my puppets yesterday, I came down here in the basement to get them, and they're in a basement. They're in the cubby hole. And when I talk to women, and I'm sure when you're talking to women, we're talking about those versions of us that we lock in a metaphorical basement, because maybe it's shame or something that we've done in our life. Like, we try to do something, and then we go, oh, that didn't turn out well. I'm going to lock that version in the basement. Never visit that again. I'm never going to be like my own personality, authentic self. because it needs to go in the basement, lock the door, because that didn't serve me well. So I was a little teary-eyed coming down to get them literally out of the basement and bring Franny back to life a little bit. And that was inspired by you. So let me show the video of our girls, and they got to have a play date.
Hey, Lauren, do you know what someone like me needs? No, what is it? Well, you know, because I am a star. Yes, you are. What does someone like you need? I need friends. Hi.
Oh my gosh, Lauren, they're so excited. They're so excited. Like, oh my gosh, Franny just wants to look in, and I think she just wants to jump through the screen and see her.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I love you already. I want friends too. Yeah. So cool. Hi, Fanny. Hi. I hope you don't mind. I suck my thumb, but I'm trying not to, but I still do. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. I mean, like, I'm trying not to eat as much chocolate as I do. So I get it. Like, okay, as friends, what is your favorite food?
That is so easy. Yes.
What is your favorite food, Franny?
Yes. Just go ahead and tell her.
I love sushi. Sushi? What? Okay, I did not see that coming. I didn't see that coming either.
Lucy, you are so pretty. I love you. Look at you. You and Franny. You know what? You guys have style.
Y'all are so cute. Look at those overalls.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, do you want to sing? She loves. I could just give her the stage and she'll take the stage, right? She loves it.
Get away, Franny. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Franny loves it. She's ready to take it away. I always tell Franny you can't bow before you sing, but she does it anyway.
I know.
Oh, girls, you both can take a bow. Ready? 1, 2.
Good job.
It's
Good job.
like Garfield. Garfield eats his dessert first. These two just want to take take your bow whenever you want to take your bow. That's what I say.
Did you say dessert? Well, let's do it. Let's sing, Franny. Take it away. She's a sucker. Oh, the sun will come out tomorrow. Let your bottom dollar that tomorrow. Just thinking about tomorrow clears away the cobwebs and the sorrow till there's none. Yay! Okay, well, I'm so glad that you girls are friends now. So why don't you give each other a high five? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah! All right, guys, this was fun, and now you can be best friends and pen pals for life.
Forever. She's gonna blow you some kisses because she loves you. She loves you. Oh my gosh, that was it was a lot longer because they just wouldn't stop talking. They had so cute. It's just really precious, to just see those two little girls get to meet with the women that represent them, and just representing that inner version of us. That was a lot of fun. So thank you for that, like just inspiring me with that, because again, ventriloquism isn't necessarily something I have on my radar, maybe one day, but just using that concept of our little girls. So it was so fun for them to be able to meet. But so how long? I mean, it's really incredible. How long would you say you've been doing this?
About 7 weeks. So
I hadn't asked you that question before. I thought it was like 7 weeks.
Yeah, I got it at the beginning of December. I got Lucy at the beginning of December. So that's why people have been just very kind. And listen, it is so sweet. It just, people speaking life over me just encourages me to continue to do that over people, because people have been very sweet. And so, because I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just having fun and taking it a day at a time and learning. But yeah, so about 7 weeks, but it's fun. It makes me smile, and I'll take all the blessings that God is opening up right now, and those gifts. My hands are open to that. They look different than what I thought it was going to look like this year, for sure. And I know I can speak for so many of us, and so. But I want to be open, and I want to be able to pivot to wherever God wants to take me. I want to be pliable. I want to be moldable. I want to be someone who I'm like, here, Lord, send me. Like, and if you're going to send me with a weird puppet, all right. And so, I just, so that's something I'm working on, because I don't think I've always been very pliable in my past. Let's just put that out there. I'll have an idea of what things should happen and going after that. And, just the older I get, I just want to be more of, where God is taking me and where he's pivoting and what he's doing. And so anyway, so today that is a puppet and just taking care of my family and walking with the Lord. And other than that, today's all I got, So.
I love it. I love what you were just saying about being pliable, because I can't help but think of drawing a parallel between a puppet. Not that we are, God's puppets. We're just, we're doing the hands and feet, but just that we want to be pliable in what he wants for us and speaking the words that he wants us to speak, kind of like we do when we are working with a puppet. And I just, I love her. And you know what? I pray that Lucy's story gets to be told too. I think there's something there with that, because a lot of that is just that version of you. And the more and more you're telling, it's just even more and more powerful. I just want to give a couple more, I just want to mention a couple more things that we're on today. Kay Dodd, she's got a birthday coming up.
Happy birthday, Kay! Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Rhonda!
My birthday is the 18th.
In August.
Kay!
It's like we should just sing right now, because it's going to be like here before we know it, and then we're going to forget. We were talking about the beautiful women in the Christian Comedy Association, and here's one of the other beautiful ladies that we love.
By the way, I'm like a total fan. Like all the women that are in the Christian comedies, like I'm such a fangirl. Like I feel, because I only got into the Christian comedy. I've only been once. I didn't even know it existed until a year and a half ago. And it's like, here's all these incredible women who have a passion for the Lord, and they're called to be artists. And I'm just like, my mind is blown, because I don't know, it's just been such a joy just to watch what everyone is doing and like cheer them on and bring out pom-poms and all those things,
And everybody is so approachable too. I'm going to put, this is who I was just talking about a second ago. I wanted to put her up here. Lisa Mills. She was my mentor for speaking, and Kay Dodd was my mentor for comedy. And Lisa Mills, I remember the first time I went to CCA, there was a huge showcase. And I remember, lovely Simone. I saw her from a distance, and she was talking to a bunch of women, and I didn't know one person. And I was like, wow, I would love to know them. And they're my dear friends now, and they're all so, approachable and willing to be there. But it's so different now, our relationship, from looking on and going, oh, I don't know anybody, but they were all so loving, and they know what they're talking about. She puts on her tours, and Kay Dodd's doing the tours, and we mentioned Rhonda and Jen O'Brien. Do you know Jen O'Brien? You need to meet her.
Oh, yes. Jen O'Brien. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I know. I know everybody. Like, I'm learning everybody and getting to know them. But no, I know exactly who Jen O'Brien is.
Yeah. Her and her sister Robin, they do characters, and it's really, really, really cool. So, oh my gosh, this is just this time. I told you the time was going to fly by. I don't know where the time went. Will you tell everybody where they can find you? And then I want to give you a chance to say whatever you want to finish up with at the end here. Tell them about the where they can find you. I don't know where that clicking is coming from. It's not anything that's here.
When I'm talking, Marla?
No, it's just clicking. But we're going to talk over it. We're just going to talk over it.
We overcome it, okay?
You do. What is possible in this clicking? We don't know. Maybe it's keeping the beat for us. I don't know. But tell everybody where they can find you. What's going on with your tour when things go back to normal, and then anything you want to add as we close up here.
You can find me on Instagram, the Lauren Lucille. I didn't mean to intend that's what was available. So the Lauren Lucille. And then just on Facebook, I'm Lauren Lucille, or my personal Facebook is Lauren Lucille Vasser. So yeah, so that's it for where to find me. Hopefully, You know, honestly, I'm in a place where my hands are open. I don't know what God has next. As of right now, I'm in the process of rescheduling all of our spring events for the Unknown Tour for the fall and for next spring. So as of right now, our tour will kick off in the fall. But, you know, I'm with all of you, whereas like, I honestly don't know. And I don't know if it's really going to kick off in the fall or if, you know, Corona is going to be the main event for I honestly just don't know. So as of right now, I'm hoping we'll kick off in the fall, but I have to really have loose hands and not hold on to that and be pliable and be open to that may not happen. And so I'm working on being honest about that grieves me, but yet I'm also like, I'm not going to just swim in the deep end of that grief. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to live there. And
yeah. So I love it. You are so inspiring. I told show Tim Combs loved what he said. He quoted you that when you said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. Keep moving forward. Yes. So well, you have been a delight. I have loved every bit of our time that we've spent this week. Last night was so fun. I went to bed just like, oh man, it's such a long, beautiful conversation, right? I hope my spirit was just filled. So thank you for everything that you've shared with everybody, for being willing to be vulnerable and share your story. And I know that hearts have been blessed today because of you.
Thank you, Marlo. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being somebody who really wants to speak life into people and who sees people. You see people. And who sees people's hearts and what God wants to bring to the table through them. And so thank you for doing that and showing up every week and doing that for people. And I mean, you are showing up. You're showing up. And so, and there's a lot of magic that happens in that and a lot of work revolved around producing anything. Because I know.
We know. So we know it's like, well, you were talking about clenched fists before. And I know I lived so many years with the clenched fists of fear and all that, but you know, when our hands open, just like you, like we can just give it all. Just give it all.
Yeah, it's like when my hands are clenched, everything's about me, right? When my hands are open, it's about praise and openness, right? And so there's a difference in the way we posture ourselves. Yeah. And every day I can posture myself and hunker down and make it all about me and make it all about what I'm doing. Or I can open my hands and say, Lord, where would you have me today? Because today is all I have. This moment, this hour, today is all I have. And I'm not responsible for tomorrow. I'm responsible for what you have called me to do in this moment today. And so my prayer for those who are watching this is that you're encouraged today and that you'll be able to walk through today with your hands open and saying, God, what is today going to make possible? Because the doors feel closed behind me. With my hands open, what is it going to make possible?
I'm not going to know where to begin and pull a sound bites out of this because this is so good. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you. So much love to you. And I'll talk to you in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Isn't she incredible? I adore her. And I always did from the time I met her. And it was so nice to spend this week getting to know her even more. So wasn't that, I hope that warmed your heart. If that's something that you're going through where you feel like you're just running into walls and you feel like you're living with clenched fists, there's so much that you want to do, but you just have that fear, or you just feel like you're running into interruptions. I know that she was just such a blessing right now. So thank you so much for being here, everybody. Join us next week. I cannot wait. I'm going to have the incredible Rick Roberts on. He's going to be my guest, and we're going to have a great conversation, just wrapping up the month of February. It's been a beautiful February, and we're going to end it with Rick Roberts next week. He is incredible, and you're gonna love the time spent with him. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.